Hello guys and welcome to my channel. This is English with Jazz, and for today's episode I'm going to give you tips on how to improve yourself in English. When I was studying, I had a hard time speaking English fluently. I even had difficulties answering grammar tests. So how did I help myself improve when it comes to the language? I'll be sharing with you 5 tips or ways that actually helped me to learn how to use the language more. Let's begin with our tip number 1. Watch English films or English dramas. It really helps when you're watching English programs because you get familiar with the ways on how native speakers use the language. It's also important to note that to sound more natural, you have to imitate them. So the best way to imitate them is by watching them most of the time. In my case, I really got addicted with Dr. House and Once Upon a Time. Also NCIS Los Angeles. I think I learned a lot from those programs, most specifically on how to speak English fluently. Let's have now our tip number 2. Read English books or English stories. I think most of your teachers would really push you to read a lot of books because it is really important for you to learn vocabulary words in English. There's no best way to learn vocabulary than to read more. Either books printed or online books, it doesn't matter. As long as it is written in English, it would help you get or learn more vocabulary words. Well, in my case, when I was in college, I really enjoyed reading books like Harry Potter. I even borrowed books from my friends because at that time I don't have enough money to buy books, so I just have to borrow them from my friends. But it really helped a lot, so it helped me while I am also enjoying reading the books. Let us have now our third tip. For number 3, used phone app or website. Well, grammar is really difficult. There are a lot of rules and you cannot just simply memorize all of them, but the best way is to practice. But unfortunately, I know that we don't have the luxury of time to open a book or answer a worksheet. So what I did was to download applications that would give practices in answering grammar tests. So I'm going to share to you applications on my phone that I have to help me learn the language more. So here I have here my phone and the applications I downloaded from the app. First I have the Merriam-Webster. Okay, so it's really helpful, most especially when I'm unfamiliar with the word. It's easier when you're reading or when you're out and you heard this unfamiliar word, you can just simply type in the Webster and check the meaning and sentence. Another app that I have in my cell phone is the English Grammar. So this app has a lot of English practice tests or grammar tests. It has beginner, average, and then advanced. So when you are just seated and you have a lot of free time, you can just open the app and answer, and automatically you would know the correct answer. So I actually enjoy that. The third app that I have is the Grammar Test app. Okay, so this Grammar Test app, it has a similar feature as English Grammar. So it contains a lot of grammar tests. There are a lot of topics there, and you can answer a lot of tests or a lot of questions in grammar. And while you are answering, you're actually practicing it. So it's a good way of learning how to use the English language. So aside from the application I downloaded in the App Store, I also enrolled in an online lesson or online class. I saw this in Metro Deal. They have 90%, 98% off on their online class, which is the Oxford Language Institute. So what I bought is the 24-month Oxford Language Institute online class. So why I enrolled myself in that class? Um, During that time, it was summer, so I don't have work since I am a teacher. And I thought of practicing the language by enrolling in this online. Anyway, it's just 799. So for 2 years, I can actually complete the entire course. And after, they could send me my certificate that I've accomplished this class. So I think this website is really helpful because it would practice you on different language concepts, and it has they have first a lesson, and then afterwards you have to answer questions that are related to the lesson. So it is very helpful because up to now I'm still using the website. So I haven't finished my 2-year course, but I enjoyed it a lot and it's really helpful. So let's now have our tip number 4. So for tip number 4, find more opportunities to speak in English. I used to be an online English teacher for Koreans, and there are a lot of them here in the Philippines. So why are they enrolling in online classes? It's because in their country, they don't have the time or they don't have the chance to speak in English. Even in their English classes, they are still speaking in Korean, and you cannot really learn to speak the language if you're not using them. So they find time to enroll in online classes wherein they are forced to speak in English. The same way for us Filipinos, we are considered as ESL or English as secondary learners. So it's not really our first language. So whenever we have an opportunity, we need to grab them. If you're still a student and during English classes you are forced to speak in English, then you have to be happy about it. It's because the teacher wants you to learn more when you are using the language. And for our last tip for today, tip number 5. Record yourself speaking and reading English. When I was in college, we don't have that speaking class. So all we have are literature classes and grammar classes, which means that I have very limited time to practice my speaking skills. So after graduation, I thought that I'm just okay when it comes to speaking English. But after teaching for 2 years, I tried to have a career shift and choose the call center industry and the online English teaching industry. And from there, I realized that I cannot really speak in English because what I have is a Filipino accent. It's really different with the American accent or the prescribed accent. Because as you know, for you to sound natural, you should have or you should sound like them. So I have a lot of sound problems. The v and the the V sound and the B sound and all other sounds that are very common for a Filipino like me. So what I did to help me with the pronunciation is to record myself reading English scripts. It helps a lot because I got to listen to my own voice and to hear my errors in my errors in pronunciation and enunciation. So I have a lot of recordings of me reading some scripts or reading some paragraphs or lines, and those audio files actually help me improve because I know what my mistakes are.